Help me out.
Good morning, class. I am Professor Doobie. Welcome to Doobie U. Today we're going to go over all of the albums, one by one, hopefully. Doobie 101, the total Doobie Brothers discography. I'm also going to touch on certain albums such as The Captain and Me.
Yeah. Oh.
And also songs such as China Grove and Chinatown. So get out your books. There will not be a test at the end, but your mind will be expanded in one form or another. Okay, what was the first Doobie Brothers album?
Officially or unofficially?
The first, most people would agree that the first album is the Black Album, which I refer to. But before that album, a lot of the stuff that's on this album, which I refer to as the Pickwick album, was recorded. It's an excellent album. There's some great songs on this, and there's quite a story behind that. These tracks were all recorded up in Pacific Studio, and a man named Paul Curcio kept a duplicate set of masters on this album. And after the Doobie Brothers gained popularity in 1980, about 10 years later, he released this album. There was a lawsuit, and shortly thereafter, this album was pulled off of all of the racks. I have been told, I don't know, nobody really seems to know, that there are only approximately 300 copies of this album. Maybe a few more, maybe a few less. I have never seen one, but I do know that there was a copy of this on cassette. I'm trying to find out for my discography if it was ever released on an 8-track. In later years, actually quite recently, he started re-releasing this material, first in Japan on Make It Easy. And then he went from there, he went to France, released pretty much the same songs in France, and then also over in England, where I believe all these are from. As a collector, I have it in my collection. Due to the negative marketing and the bad, stories about this album, I do not endorse its purchase because the Doobie Brothers do not make any royalties on it. But I have it, and I love the music that's on here. I would encourage you to search your own hearts and see if you want it, or if you don't want it, that's probably either way the right thing to do. So back to the first album. The first album, I have been told, was released in a unit of 10,000. It really didn't do too terribly good until they came out with the Vices album, and they put the song Nobody, which you might have heard in concert recently, on the B-side of one of the 45s, and then they started to push this album. But it's a great album. I'm glad it's out now on cassette. You can pick it up almost anywhere. And Warner's released it in their archive series on CD. This is an original bootleg 8-track that I picked up somewhere. And I have been told, I asked Tyran, that he says that it was never released on a Warner Brothers 8-track, that maybe someday one will surface. The next album is The Captain and Me. That's a favorite. And probably all familiar with that album. I brought a Nautilus half-speed master to display that. And then also a bootleg 8-track that I picked up. It was released by Warner Brothers on 8-track, an original type cassette. And it was also released, I found, on a quad 8-track, which I never knew anything about. I'm still learning about those, and I guess a couple of the other albums were also released on quad 8 tracks. You can get this album in either cassette or CD. You don't have it in your collection. And the next album is Toulouse Street, with the gatefold, probably with a lot of the guys, the favorite inner picture. But I'm sure I was kind of hoping Tyran could touch on that photo session a little bit, and maybe later on he will. A lot of great songs on that. It was also out on 8-track. CD, you can get it on, and cassette, not too hard to find. Then we went to the What Were Once Vices Are Now Habits album. This is my favorite album. When I started listening to the band in 1974, this was my favorite album. And I cruised all over Southern California listening. I wore out, I think, 2 8-tracks of that album and a cassette. And I still listen to this a lot. I love this.